first team on the docket is the Duke Blue Devils out of the ACC. Duke is 23-6 overall, 14-4 in the conference. They're not going to win the conference. That's going to be the North Carolina Tar Heels. And right now they're projected in the South with number 1 seed overall being Houston. Duke right now is a number 4 overall seed, and they would play number 13 Samford. And then if they win that one, it would be Illinois in McNeese State. So, Chet, why don't you kick it off? Are you buying or selling the Duke Blue Devils to make a run in March?
Well, now that Kyle Filipowski is resurrected from his big flop incident, he's throwing out windmills mid-game. I think he's fully healthy, and I'm buying stock in the Duke Blue Devils to advance to at least an Elite Eight. It's been a while since, right? It's been a while since they've been there. I don't think they made it there last year.
They almost did. I think they got to like the league Sweet 16. I think I don't know who they lost to. Maybe I think it was they lost to Florida Atlantic. Because I know Florida Atlantic was the 9 seed there in Duke. I don't know. I can't remember last year's tournament well, but I think they either made the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 last year.
But if they were to make it to the Elite 8 and Houston were to make it there, the two would play at that point. So Houston's hot right now. I mean, the whole city's hot in terms of sports teams. So Houston's something else. But I'm buying Duke stock.
Jacob, are you going to buy or sell the stock of the Duke Blue Devils?
We are not financial advisors. I just got to throw that out there. We are talking. We are talking basketball.
A fun experiment.
I'm going to sell the Duke Blue Devils, and here's why. First of all, I think that Duke, the age of Duke basketball has to change for the future. They still run the same scheme that they used to run with Coach K there, and it doesn't seem to be working. I can't remember the last time that I saw Duke with 4 losses in the conference. And that's kind of tough. And for them to have 2 outside of the conference is interesting too. 23-6 isn't a bad record at all. I mean, that's a really good record. Only problem is I think they're going to run into a buzzsaw. And for the legacy of Duke, I mean, I can see Duke winning and going to the Sweet 16. The problem is for the legacy of Duke basketball, anything Sweet 16, round of 32, or round of 64, and you're out is a failure, I think, in that program's book and that school's book overall, as far as fan base goes. So, yeah, I just don't see them making it through the Sweet 16, not with the teams that are really primed to be really competitive this season.
Wade, are you buying or selling the Blue Devils?
Based on that regional you just read out, I think Illinois is a really good team, and then if they're paired up in the same regional as Houston, man,
that one's tough.
So
you got two sells and a buy, Tyler. What are you doing?
I think that if they stay in Houston's bracket, I would sell them. I just don't think that they make it past the Sweet 16. I think that the Sweet 16 is their ceiling. I think that this Saturday game is really going to tell it all. They host North Carolina. If they can beat North Carolina, they needed some momentum. They've had some games, the Wake Forest game, and then they were playing NC State tonight's game on Monday. So I think I'm going to sell the Duke Blue Devils. I feel like every year I have them going far, and they just let me down. So they do have the star power and the talent. They do have a veteran bunch. Their point guard,
Kyle out there
is a senior. Kyle Filipowski is a sophomore. This is probably going to be his last ride for him. So I'm going to sell the Duke Blue Devils. I think I have more trust right now in the other team, their rivals in North Carolina, making a deeper run than Duke. Let's go on now to the Big Ten. We are going to be either buying or selling the Purdue Boilermakers. This is your number 1 overall seed right now, projected 26-3, 15-3. If you really look at the Big Ten, I think that there's only really like 3 teams to even look at. It's Purdue, Illinois, and then Michigan State. Anybody outside of that is not really going to make noise in the Big Ten. But right now, Purdue would face either the winner of Eastern Kentucky and Norfolk State as the 16 seed, and then the 8-9 would be Oklahoma and Colorado State. So, Wade, are you buying stock in Purdue?
This one's hard to do after what they did to us last year, losing as a 1 seed, right?
Yep, they did in the first round.
Thanks to Virginia, they're not the only team to do that. You know what? I'm going to buy this team. I think that like Virginia, they'll bounce back strong. Virginia went on and won it the next year.
Yeah.
So I think you throw out the recency bias and you look at what they've done this year. They got a really dominant player in Zach Edey and a really good team overall. Big Ten looks to be one of the better conferences. So I'll take Purdue as a bye.
Chet, are you putting coal in the train for Purdue?
Heck yeah, you put it that way. I didn't know what I was going to say, but yeah, let's go buy and let's put the coal in the train for the Boilermakers.
Boilers up, baby.
Boiler up. All right. How about you, Mr. Big Ten over there? Are you having faith in Purdue making a deep run, or do you see the same story that we've seen the past couple of years for the Boilermakers?
I'm gonna kill the train here. No, I think the train comes off the tracks because
Okay.
I just don't
train puns.
I mean, I think their record says it all there. I mean, 26-3 overall and 15-3 in the conference. All three losses have come to conference teams, and those losses have been bad losses. And for me, if you're going to be competing against teams outside of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is a weak basketball conference. As far as men's basketball goes, it is a weak conference. There may be 2 or 3 teams that are any good, and outside of that, nobody's going to make it, especially this year. I mean, outside of Purdue and Illinois, nobody's got any sort of shot to go far in the March Madness bracket. I don't think there's another Big Ten team in the March Madness bracket. I'm not sure. I think Wisconsin's in there.
Yeah, Wisconsin's in there. Yeah,
so
but Wisconsin's on the wrong.
Make it.
What about Penn State, Jacob? What's your Nittany Lions doing?
They're not.
They ain't doing much of anything. I mean, they're not very good anymore. A lot of their guys have left. They're too young. But no, I think for Purdue, I'm selling them because of the fact that I just don't believe in them to win a game outside of the conference. Not big enough. So I can see them going down in the round of 32. Once you take on another team that's got a hot start, and it's all about momentum in college basketball towards the end of the year. I just have a belief in other teams that are really fighting for their conference versus Purdue, who's really held off everybody in their conference and hasn't really faced anybody that's challenging.
Yeah, I think the majority of the country is buying this team, but I'm seeing this bracket. And if they face off against one of these teams, I think that they could get eliminated. I think that they get past at least the first round or the second weekend. I think that they could definitely make it to the Sweet 16, possibly Elite 8, but I'm selling them. I just don't see this team and the hype of the national championship. Zach Edey, and pretty much they're relying on him. You can't rely on just one guy in March, and even if he gets in foul trouble, they're going to be done. They don't have the guard play that they've had in the past couple of years. So, yeah, it's hard to trust Purdue the past couple of years. So I think that a lot of the country is probably doubting this team a little bit just because of the history in March. So I am as well going to be selling Purdue. Here I knocked him out in the second round. I might do it again. We'll see in a couple of weeks. All right, let's go on now.
Wall Street out here. Tyler's selling all the stock.
I am selling. We'll see which team I decide to buy. But next one, let's go on to the Big 12. It is the Kansas Jayhawks. This is a loaded team. This has been an inconsistent team too. The Kansas Jayhawks, 21-8, 9-7 in the Big 12. You don't really see that too much with Bill Self, but it's really just been all Houston in this Big 12 there. So, Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Are you buying the Jayhawks?
I'll buy the Jayhawks, and the reason I'll buy them is because at this point, I think it's long but over for them, as far as national championship hopes. For them, I honestly think that a successful season is for them to get to the Elite Eight. A lot just happened with this team, and I know starting at the beginning of the year, they were the number one team in the country at one point, and they just kind of slowly fell down the ranks. And now they're in a position where they're very vulnerable, and for them to be where they are currently in the bracket, I think that for them to get to an Elite Eight position would be a win in the season. So that's the only reason I'm buying them. They're going to lose a lot of product and a lot of guys, and bring a lot of value to that Kansas team after the season. So I think they're going to be in full on rebuild mode from here on out.
Yeah, in the bracket, they are the number 3 seed in the same region as Purdue. They would face off against the Ivy League winner of Cornell. We've seen what the Ivy League has done. They would face the winner of South Carolina and Gonzaga and Providence. So Wade, are you buying or selling Kansas?
Yeah, I'm going to buy Kansas. They just have too much star power. Like you said, the knock on Purdue was you only have the one star. But here you have Perpy and Hunter Dickinson, who's probably been in college since we have. So I just think that's a good combination of guard play and big man play. I think they win the Big 12 tournament too.
Chet, you buying the Jayhawks?
I like that they've gone through some trials and tribulations at 9-7, and I think that matches you up well with once you get into March. So I'm buying the Jayhawks as well.
I'm buying the Jayhawks too. I think that this is a team with a lot of talent. The Big 12 is a loaded conference. I don't think that this record being a 9-7 overall in the conference is a knock to that. I just think that, Baylor's having a good season. Houston's having a good season. BYU as well in their first season in the Big 12 too. So I think that Kansas, you're looking at a team with experience in March. Kansas definitely has that with Dickinson leading the way. All right, let's go on now to the Big East, and that is going to be the Creighton Blue Jays, 22-8, 13-6 overall. The Big East is definitely a conference that I'm watching. It's really UConn, Marquette, and Creighton, I think, are the 3 teams. Maybe Providence, if they make it in, they could definitely make some noise. So, Chet, are you going to be buying or selling Creighton to make a deep run in March?
Selling them. I've bought a lot of teams, but this one I'm selling. Don't know why, but I'm done with them.
Yeah, in this bracket, Creighton's also a 3 seed. They would face off against the College of Charleston, and then they would get the winner of Dayton in South Florida. Wade, are you riding with the Blue Jays?
Hey, they're playing the Cougs in the first round. I got to sell them. I think
I'm with Wade on that one because it's Charleston. I'm selling them.
Hey, I've picked Creighton to win it all before. Them and Villanova. Every time I pick them to do well, they crap the bed. So I'll sell them, but they'll win it all because I sold them.
Jacob, you've been a big fan of the Big East lately. You're riding with the Blue Jays?
For me, I think this is more than a buy. They're my team of the tournament, actually, and here's why. I think they could potentially sneak into the Final Four and be a really good team. The reasons why: last 4 games, 2 of the 4 games have come against the number 1 and the number 5 top team in the country, and they've beaten both of them. Their only loss in the last 5 was to St. John's in a blowout game on the road. Aside from that, they're one of a couple of teams to take down UConn this year. UConn has virtually been unbeatable all year long. Creighton they can shoot the lights out. It's scary for how good they are. Watching them play against Seton Hall, beating Seton Hall by 21 is wild. Them coming and playing Marquette next and beating them by 14. Marquette, is a really good team. And keep in mind, Creighton's the 3rd-ranked team in the Big East. And that's even crazier to think about after they beat the number 1 and number 2 team in the conference. So I'm absolutely buying the Creighton Blue Jays, and I think they'll go far.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement here with Jacob. I've definitely been a fan of watching Creighton. I think that if you really look at the Big East, it's definitely a top-heavy conference, but they have a really good resume, and they're a veteran team. They went to Elite Eight last year before getting beat pretty much by one of the Cinderella stories with San Diego State. So I think they have it in them to get back at least to the Sweet 16. It would definitely shock me if they fall early in this tournament. I think that this is a team that has experience to go far in March. Now let's go on to the Pac-12. The number 1 seed, the Arizona Wildcats, 23-6 overall, 14-4. They would be projected in the West, which if they make it far, they would get a game in Los Angeles. They would face the winner of Arkansas Little Rock and Grambling State and face the winner of 8-9. And these are some scary 8-9s, Northwestern and TCU. So Wade, you feel like every season you're picking Arizona to go far, but they continue to let you down. Are you buying once again the Wildcats?
Exactly. It's tough to pick them. I do like that they would stay out west, but we talked about TCU last week, and if that's who they have to play in the second round, I have a hard time believing they'll stick around. So I'll sell them for that reason, but hey, when that bracket comes out, you never know. I might be a sucker for Arizona again. I've done it before. Probably do it again.
Jacob, are you buying or selling the Cats?
I'm gonna buy the Cats again. I just think that this is probably they have a better shot this year than they had last year, and I think it's just because of experience now. At this point, they lost little to nothing last year, so I think they're really at the point where they need to win or they need to go far. Being out west, of course, is a big help to them. It's going to be interesting to see how far they get within that side of that region of the bracket, just because of how strong it is out west. There's only a couple teams out west that are any good, in my opinion. I think a lot of the really good teams are in the east. Just a handful of teams out west that I think really have a shot, and one of them is Arizona. I just think 6 losses all year, 4 in the conference. Pac-12 is a really tough conference, but their wins against against conference teams that aren't ranked are blowout wins. I mean, absolute blowout wins. They beat Oregon by over 20, I think, the other night, and before that, their only loss recently has been against Washington State. I mean, Wazoo's a really good team that is going to be in the tournament, so I think I'm going to buy the Wildcats once again to make it to the Elite Eight.
Joe, what about you on Arizona?
I'm buying them because it's the last year of the Pac-12, and we saw in football that worked out pretty well. The game potentially against Grambling State, you got to watch out. Those guys from Baton Rouge can be feisty, but I like Arizona here. I'm going to buy them to get to an Elite Eight appearance at least.
Yeah, I'm going to buy them as well. I think that Arizona, like Jacob mentioned, they definitely have some good wins. I think that Washington State, if you're looking for like a real sleeper team to make some noise, it's been Washington State. They're riding with the momentum. Would not surprise me if the Cougars take the Pac-12 tournament. But adding a guy like Caleb Love coming from North Carolina, he's played in the big games before, went to the national championship. So he's played in games like this. So I think that experience in March, especially at your guard play, I think that the size down low, like this is a stacked team. So I think that Arizona is definitely way deserving of that number one. So I'm definitely buying in Arizona to make a deep run. Now let's go on to the SEC. Let's go to the Auburn Tigers. They are 22-7, 11-5 in the SEC. Jacob, are you buying and selling War Eagle?
I'm going to sell War Eagle, and here's why. Auburn, to me, just doesn't have an identity at this point in the season. They won early on in the year, and where they are now, it's just I feel like they're getting away from their brand of basketball, and it's tough because I just see a big loss at home to Kentucky is massive. That you need to keep that close. You lose on the road to an unranked Florida. But Florida's really good. Like, Florida's in the tournament. They're an unranked SEC team, and the SEC is just really strong. I mean, they have the same record as Alabama, and I think Alabama's right there on Tennessee's tail to lead the way, and they're over there, with the same record. So I think it's tough to really say that these are bad losses for them, because they're not the favorite on the road, even though they're the ranked team. It's how weird basketball is, but I just think Auburn has gotten away from it. They went on a tear for a while. They just can't seem to get over the hump, and that is Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. Those teams they're just not going to be able to beat, and there's teams in this tournament that are far better than the Auburn Tigers. I think they get to the round of 32, but past that, I just don't see that happening.
Chet, you were putting the thumbs down, so I'm guessing you're selling Auburn?
A big time selling, dumping the stock, getting whatever I can, pennies on the dollar out of Auburn right now.
Wade, you and I know a little bit about the SEC. How about you?
I'm going to buy Auburn, but I would sell their rival, Alabama. I just think Auburn,
no killers.
They got that ugly loss out the way to Florida. Like we mentioned, they lost by like 40 points. That was pretty bad. But I think this team is a little bit more consistent defensively than some of the other SEC teams. That concerns me about Alabama and Kentucky is they're really good offensively, but they can't stop anything. Tennessee, same kind of deal. So I'll take Auburn, but I think the SEC is pretty wide open in the conference. But I do like Auburn in the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to rely on Auburn's path, but I'm going to buy on this team too. I feel like every time that it comes to March, I either have Auburn going to the Sweet 16, their Elite Eight. They just, some years they have it, some years they don't. I think that this is the years that they definitely have it. They're definitely loaded at each position. I know that they have some losses where you look at it and man, that's a bad loss. How are they going to be the fourth seed in this tournament? But I think that Auburn with Bruce Pearl, this is going to be a team that can make some noise. All right, let's go on to our two mid majors. First one is going to be one of the Cinderella stories that we saw last year's tournament, and that's going to be the Florida Atlantic Owls. Right now, they're on the bubble, so who knows if they're even going to make the tournament. But if they do, they're 22-7, 12-4. So, Wade, are you buying the Owls this year?
Yeah, I think they win their conference, and I'll buy them. I think that they have some unfinished business from last year. I don't think they're getting back to the Final Four, but I think they'll make a little bit of noise, get through the first weekend.
Jacob, you've been a big fan of the Owls. Are you going to be buying or selling this team?
I'm going to buy the Owls once again. I like their brand of basketball. I think that they obviously are a team. I think that they can compete, especially in the tournament. I think they're a tournament team based on a number of scenarios. They're just a fast team, and I think that's where they beat people down the floor last year. If, as of today, facing off against Florida first round would be one heck of a matchup, with the 7-10. So I think Florida Atlantic, they're going to make the tournament. The question is where they fit in there. Are they going to be a team that gets a bye into the tournament, or are they going to have to play their way into the tournament? If they fall to an 11 seed and they have to play their way, I can see that happening. But ultimately, I think they will win the conference, and I just think that they're built for a March Madness run.
Chad, what's your take on the Owls?
Just to be different, I'm selling them. Don't know much about them, but we're pumping them, pumping the stock.
Yeah, I think this is an easy sell for me. I think that they made their magical run last year. The magic is over. This has been the most inconsistent teams in all of college basketball. They got some bad losses on their schedule. Like they lost a lot of overtime games too. So I think that, like Jacob mentioned, they get to Florida, that won't even be close. Florida is definitely playing well down the stretch. I know they just lost to South Carolina, but South Carolina is one of those teams that, hey, we saw it in 2017, maybe 2024 with the Gamecocks. But this is a sell for me for FAU. I just don't see them having another magical run like they did last year. All right, last but not least, we're going to go to the A10, the Dayton Flyers, 22-6, 12-4 right now, that they would be the 5 seed. So, Wade, buying or selling the Flyers?
This team, man, they're always there in March. I don't know. I feel like I've been too generous. I got to sell on Dayton. I don't really know why I'm selling on Dayton, but I'm going to sell them to balance it out.
Chet, are you flying with the Flyers?
I am flying with the Flyers, baby. Buy them.
Jacob, how about you?
I'm going to sell the Dayton Flyers. I think where they fit in the bracket, it's just really bad. And the South is not the place to be. If you are a team that is in the middle of the road for seeds, being a 6 seed right now against South Florida, if that stays the same. South Florida is a dangerous basketball team at an 11 seed. And if you beat there, looks like you're going to play Creighton most likely, and good luck getting past that. So I think I'm going to sell them big time. It's just too tough. Congrats for the A10, but I just don't think they're going to make it past that.
Yeah, A10 could get 2 teams in there, with either is it going to be Loyola Chicago and the Fighting Sister Jeans, or if Richmond wins the conference tournament, but Dayton's going to be. Yeah, I agree with you. If that path sets up, they're going to be out in the first round. I don't think that they get past South Florida, and if they do, they're probably going to lose to Creighton. So this was a team that started off the season hot. But they're trending in the wrong direction. So I'm also going to be selling Dayton. And that's your buy or sell March Madness edition.